Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the CAV Sports Podcast. I am your host, Chris. There's been a lot of news going around, a lot of interesting developments, and the playoffs are just getting close to wrapping up. We are going in to the NFC and the AFC championship this weekend. So let's get started with the episode. First off, I want to talk about is kind of something that was a little bit more, what's it called? A little more recent. So, if any of you have seen that the Buffalo Bills played the Cincinnati Bengals this past weekend, the Buffalo Bills lost the game. And one of the bigger things that was noticed was Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs was reportedly, he left the locker room before anybody else, the coaching staff or any other players arrived. And practice player Duke Johnson, the running back, had to go get him and bring him back to the locker room and then obviously meet with the coaching staff, and then he still took off. He was still one of the first people to leave. And I believe he went to Twitter and said that, I believe I'm paraphrasing here. But I'm not sure really if I'm right about this quote or not. But he said, should I feel good about winning or losing, or should I feel good about losing? Nah. And I agree with him. It is frustrating. This is the third time that the Buffalo Bills had a chance to at least make the AFC Championship, and they have not made it, or at least go farther into the playoffs. And it didn't happen. First, it was the whole overtime rules that the NFL had, and they had to implement changes. And then it was Cincinnati, and now it's this with Cincinnati. Now it's this year again with Cincinnati. And or, I'm sorry, it wasn't with Cincinnati last year, but like I said, they haven't been as successful as they want to be, and it's showing frustration. And Stefon Diggs was definitely frustrated with how the game went this past weekend. And not only just you saw it on the field, like there were a couple times where Josh Allen threw a pass to Stefon Diggs, and you could tell he was frustrated because he was yelling at Josh on the field, telling him to make a better pass, or you don't have to throw it low to the ground and I have to go dive and get it. You can give it to me standing up. Miscommunication, and then you can clearly see on the sideline he was yelling at Josh Allen while Josh Allen was just kind of sitting there looking over the tablet and kind of like reflecting on what's going on. You can just clearly see how frustrated Stefon Diggs was about what happened. And like I said, I don't blame him. It is frustrating because they have a good enough team. Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback. And Stefon Diggs is definitely one of the best in the NFL to do it. So it is. I understand it's very frustrating that you have a great team, but you're not getting farther than mostly the divisional round. And you're seeing like Patrick Mahomes' team, the Kansas City Chiefs, who is definitely not as good as they were last year, but they're still making it to the AFC Championship. So I can understand where it's getting frustrating. And now the Cincinnati Bengals are on the rise right now, especially just coming off winning an AFC Championship last year and now possibly getting another chance to go to the Super Bowl again. It's very frustrating for a player to understand that I play at this high of a level. I have a quarterback that plays at this high of a level, and it's definitely just, it doesn't feel good still losing the game, especially at home. You had home field advantage and they lost the game. And that has to feel a whole lot worse because you are at home, you're in front of your home crowd, and you get your butts kicked by the Cincinnati Bengals, who is not a bad team by any means. Joe Burrow is great, but it is frustrating because it should have been a closer game, and the fact that you had home field advantage, you already have a 3-point, a 3-point advantage over the other team if you look at it. But we are going to have to see. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Stefon Diggs. I don't know if he may want to stay or not, or maybe want to go somewhere else. I highly doubt he's going to go anywhere else. I don't think Stefon Diggs is going to want to trade just because he does like playing with Josh Allen, but they are definitely going to need to fix something in Buffalo because the frustration is growing and growing, and there's only so much being done, and now you're seeing your star players show that frustration. Next up, Bill O'Brien has been hired as the new offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. Congratulations. No more Matt Patricia. So, to give a little background of Bill O'Brien, he was the head coach for the Houston Texans. He was the one that played with Deshaun Watson. He did go to Alabama after being let go. I believe he started coaching for Alabama in 2021. He did coach Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young, who's probably going to be a top draft pick this year. And it's definitely a big upgrade compared to Matt Patricia, especially how poorly the offense was run this past year for the New England Patriots. So I think Bill O'Brien coming in is definitely going to be a fresh, like a kind of a good fresh air coming in, especially helping Mac Jones. I think that's definitely going to be the priority for the New England Patriots this year, is because you know Bill Belichick, he's a defensive mind guru. We've seen it. He can make a great defense out of players that are probably not the highest regard players out there in their position, and he can make them into all pros. We've seen him do that. We've seen him do that when Brady was there, and a little bit without Brady. And really, what they're missing is the offense. They have a quarterback that they believe in Mac Jones, and now they just need a coordinator that can actually run good plays and not just run the ball and halfback screens 90% of the time and making your offense predictable. I think Bill O'Brien definitely brings that, especially just coaching a Heisman Trophy winner. I think that's definitely going to be a big boost, especially also learning more under Nick Saban, the the Bill Belichick of the college football world. And now him bringing his expertise and learning a little bit more under Nick Saban is definitely going to help the New England Patriots at least level up their offense this year. I will say though, I did see that Jacoby Myers is up as a free agent this year for wide receivers. So if they can somehow keep him, I think they're going to be just fine. I think Jacoby Myers played well enough to at least be a number one wide receiver for the team. Aside of that weird fumble debacle that they pulled at one of the games at the end of the season, but I could see the Patriots signing him back. I don't think he'll get a giant contract, however, but I do think he will come back at least now with Bill O'Brien coming in and at least making life a little bit easier for Mac Jones and probably fixing up the offense. So New England Patriots, let me know what you guys think about Bill O'Brien coming in. In my opinion, definitely a big upgrade for Matt Patricia running the offense. Maybe he'll move back to defense. I'm not really sure what they're going to do with him, but congratulations to New England Patriots. You guys got yourself a new offensive coordinator for the next season. Next up, Ravens offensive coordinator leaves. Greg Roman I believe he resigned from his duties from the Baltimore Ravens. And I think it's a big concern. I think it is because the Baltimore Ravens have Lamar Jackson, and he's a great quarterback. But we have to remember that Greg Roman at least kind of showed the potential that he has. And here's what I mean by that. Now, if any of you know, Greg Roman actually coached for the 49ers before arriving to the Ravens, and he actually coached Alex Smith, who was going to be a bust, believe it or not, before he arrived and helped his career. Alex Smith was not playing well for the majority of the time he was there. And Greg Roman helped elevate his game and bring out that full potential that he had. And then, next one up was Colin Kaepernick. He was able to level up Colin Kaepernick to be the all-pro quarterback that we saw, to be that electrifying quarterback that, that level of playing he had, with his feet and with his arms. We saw how well they did, and obviously after Greg Roman left, Colin Kaepernick's play was not the greatest, towards the end of his career. And now Greg Roman, when he got Lamar Jackson, he did bring out all that fire within Lamar Jackson. He was able to run a system where it benefited Lamar Jackson. Now with him gone, I am curious about, first of all, who they're going to bring in to help with the offense, because I know one of the bigger things is that not a lot of wide receivers want to go to the Baltimore Ravens. And we can see that because all they do is run the ball. I think that was one of the biggest things with Greg Roman's offense, was that he was running the ball heavily. So if you're a running back that wants a paycheck, that was the offense to go to. Or if you want to earn yourself a paycheck, that was the offense to go to, because you'll have a ton of chances to get that. And now with him gone, it's going to be interesting to see what the Baltimore Ravens are going to do, with the offensive coordinator, and with if they can even sign Lamar Jackson this going into next season. They may, but I mean, it's gonna really depend on how much they're willing to pay for Lamar Jackson. He was a unanimous MVP. We've seen him get to the playoffs. He won a playoff game. So it's not that he's a bad quarterback and they should question everything. It's a matter of if the Baltimore Ravens are going to pay him. Now, obviously, they paid Roquan Smith, who has earned his money, and they're more of a defensive team. But Lamar Jackson is an All-Pro. He's a Pro Bowler. Won an MVP. I think they should make a push to sign him. But now Lamar Jackson's probably going to think, well, my offensive coordinator that put me at the level where I'm at is gone. Who are you going to replace him with? And I think if it's not a good offensive coordinator, or if it's somebody else that Lamar Jackson may not like, he may not return to the Ravens. I can see that happening because, they put in a system that can benefit him, to use all of his skill sets to make him successful. and they just took the one head coach that was doing that, or not the head coach, offensive coordinator, away from Lamar Jackson. So it's going to really depend on who they get to replace Greg Roman, and it's going to be a long road ahead before they can even worry about signing Lamar Jackson to a long-term contract. Especially since Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent. I believe he's representing himself. I think that makes life a little bit more harder because, he's going to be so fixed-minded on what he wants and the price tag he is going to put on himself. And there might be some teams willing to pay it. Don't get me wrong. There probably will be teams that want to pay that kind of money to get Lamar Jackson. But if the Baltimore Ravens want to keep him, I would very cautiously look at who you're going to get for offensive coordinator, because that's probably going to depend on whoever you get for OC this upcoming season is going to depend if Lamar Jackson will stay with you. Because as I said, Greg Roman set up Lamar Jackson to play at the potential that he had, to play at that high level. Because even in the draft, keep in mind, Lamar Jackson got skipped all the way to the end of the first round. He got skipped by the Baltimore Ravens and most of the NFL. And then obviously the Ravens got the pick back, and they got him with the last pick in the first round of that night. And so it's not like he was, a top-rated pick. He was at the end, and everyone skipped on him. A lot of analysts and draft professionals, they were saying that he should switch over from quarterback to running back, and he just absolutely refused. And I think it was a good move on him just because, he showed that he could play, at such a high level at the quarterback position. But now with the offensive coordinator who was setting him up for success is gone, now it's going to depend if Lamar Jackson's going to want to stay. So we'll have to wait for what Baltimore is going to do and see which OC they're going to bring in for the next season, and then probably worry about Lamar Jackson. Now, I think that they should probably worry a little bit more about Lamar Jackson, but for sure, you need to get a good play caller going into next season and then handle Lamar Jackson. Next up, this one is a little bit more of a kind of an issue thing that was kind of brought up, and I thought it was very interesting. So the Cardinals' new general manager, Monty Ossenfort, he said in a statement saying, I'm paraphrasing here, that to leave your ego at the door. Now, this is the new Arizona Cardinals' new general manager, and that quote alone means, tells me he means business. And who I think that quote is directed to is definitely directed to Kyler Murray, because from afar, everyone saw what the Arizona Cardinals went through this past offseason with Kyler. Him holding out, the childish acts, taking the pictures off his Instagram, going quiet, going dark for the Arizona Cardinals, possibly holding out for a new contract. And then he got a new contract, and now he didn't even play most of the season, got Cliff Kingsbury fired, and now the Arizona Cardinals are giving him say on who they're going to hire for the new head coach. And what I'm seeing is that Kyler Murray is getting a lot of power in the Cardinals organization. And now with this new GM coming in and him saying that statement, leave your ego at the door, I think that's a good step for at least management of the Arizona Cardinals, because it was starting to seem like they were appeasing Kyler Murray because of, wanting him to get involved in who's going to be the new head coach, what they're going to do, letting in Kyler Murray on all their day-to-day stuff. And now with this new GM coming in and kind of talking about, like, we're gonna run this organization, but like you're not gonna pull any of these childish tactics or all this petty action that was going on in the offseason. And it's definitely a direct message to Kyler Murray, because even though he's their highest paid player on the team right now, this general manager means business, and you can tell, just in that quote, that he is not gonna take any kind of childish antics from Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray has to buckle up for this one, because this general manager seems like he is not going to let Kyler Murray get control and take over the organization, because we have seen what happens when players start to take over and you start appeasing this. I'm saying this because I'm referring to Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, because they let him get all the power and they've seen what's going, and we all see what's going on. And it's exactly what's kind of happening to Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, is that they're trying to make Kyler so happy and make sure he doesn't go anywhere and make sure, he doesn't try to delete all his pictures from Instagram or anything like that. And it's leading the organization to give him all that power and give him all the say in it. And that's not good to give a player like that all that kind of power, because then he will hold that over your heads and he will hold the organization hostage. And you definitely don't want that, because especially if you're trying to move on from him, you're going to not be able to, just because of all these things. You're going to go through multiple head coaches. If Kyler Murray does not like him in the middle of the season and they got to, shuffle for more. It's just a recipe for disaster. Is kind of what I'm getting at here with giving Kyler Murray all that kind of power, and now with his GM coming in, not letting him get all the power that the organization is trying to give Kyler. It's going to be kind of a power struggle, going into next season. But good for Monty for stepping up to Murray. Next up, this was kind of more of an opinion thing that I've thought about after kind of hearing what happened this past week with Aaron Rodgers, and this is probably going to sound like a rant, so I apologize for that, but I have to talk about this. So last week, Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show. Now, before I continue with that, I want to say that I am a big fan of the Pat McAfee show. He is very hilarious. The guys he has in that office are hands down funny. They're very intelligent. I love the way they do their shows. Obviously, they talk about sports and all that, but they implement some funny things, and they do lavish things. AJ Hawk's on the show, and it's just great. I'm a big fan of it. I watch the show myself, so I have no hate for the show, and I definitely don't blame them for what's going on. I really don't, and I don't want anyone to think that. I'm a big fan of the Pat McAfee show, and they do not have a fault in what's going on. This is where I have the issue. So Aaron Rodgers goes on the Pat McAfee show, and they usually do like a day segment when he hops on there, when he's available, or if he just wants to air out all the dirty laundry going out with the Green Bay Packers. Here's my problem. So this past weekend, he was quoted saying that he feels that he can win a couple more MVPs, and my problem with that is not that he wants to win MVP. It's the fact that he only cares about himself, and it's pretty evident when you hear that, when you hear him say that. Because if I'm an NFL quarterback, I don't care about the MVP. I'm thinking of championships. I mean, if he said anything different along the lines of, yeah, I feel like in the right situation, I can win a couple more Super Bowls, then that sounds a whole lot better. Because it's like, okay, we know where his mindset is. He wants to win the Super Bowl. He doesn't. And from what we saw from the show is that he basically stating that he only cares about Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't care about the organization. And he's basically holding the Green Bay Packers hostage. And we're seeing it. And it's getting frustrating because when you do that to an organization, you're only hurting them. And you're hurting yourself. Now, there have been some people saying, like, well, everyone takes that quote out of context. Everyone is saying, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers, if you listen to completely what he said, he didn't mean, he only cares about MVPs. Well, hold on a second, because we've had some other issues with Aaron Rodgers. Now, that's not the only first incident. He's had this before, a couple of times when he gets frustrated with the team or the organization or players. He goes on the Pat McAfee show and complains about it. He doesn't go take it to the players. He doesn't take it to Matt LaFleur, the head coach. He doesn't go to management. He goes on to the Pat McAfee show and just complains about things. He'll say like, well, if we're in a better situation or if my teammates played any better, we probably win games. It's like, no. That's not completely true, because we saw this past season he did not play well. The biggest indicator was the final game against the Detroit Lions. He did not play good. He made bonehead throws. He did not have a good season. Even though he likes to praise himself, saying that claiming that he's smarter, not claiming, but like kind of giving that attitude of I'm smarter and better than everyone, when it's clearly not true. And there has been times on the record where he points at the wide receiver, tell him he didn't run the route right, or he's not there on time. When it was like, no, Aaron Rodgers, you messed up the throw. There are times where Aaron Rodgers did not throw a good pass, and he still blamed his receivers or the running backs for not running the routes correctly. And some of the cases, maybe it's true, because there have been times where there has been miscommunication, don't get me wrong. And I don't think you'd ever dispute that. But there are times where it was blatantly Aaron Rodgers' fault. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't take accountability for himself. And with this, and him going on the Pat McAfee show and just airing out the dirty laundry with everybody on the show, and then now, it just gets chaotic. This is just the result of the Green Bay Packers giving Aaron Rodgers so much power in that organization. Now to today, everyone's wondering, is he retiring? Is he going to leave? Does he want to trade? Well, he doesn't have many other options. Either trade or stay or retire. And he's not going to retire because he's not going to leave all that money that he was guaranteed on the table. If he wants to stay, they're probably going to, the Green Bay Packers are probably going to kiss his butt and try to make the life better for him, which, in my opinion, is what the organization should not be doing because they're giving Aaron Rodgers all the help they can get. They got Randall Cobb from the Houston Texans to help him, try to help that offense. They drafted Christian Watson. They're getting him players. He's not producing. That's the problem. There have been times during the season and in playoff games where he's choked, and we've seen it. And so it's not like he's, in the MVP conversation every year. That's not what it is because there are times where he's not in the conversation. I know he won back-to-back MVPs. He won a Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl he won was such a long time ago, and he has not reached one since he won a Super Bowl. He has not been to the big dance ever since then. And with that, to kind of keep it going, the biggest thing I have a problem with is he claims that he's okay with the organization moving on. I don't buy it. I don't. I don't believe he truly means that he is okay if the Packers want to go with Jordan Love and move on from him. Because this is how he works. This is how he's worked for a while. For the past couple years, he contemplates should I retire, and then the Green Bay Packers come back to him asking, "What can we do, Aaron? What do you want us to do? Do you need another wide receiver? Do you need this? Do you need that?" He wants the Green Bay Packer and Packers Nation to come back crying to Aaron, asking him to save Green Bay football. When in reality, he's just hurting the organization. That's all he's doing with his antics and how he is acting and, going on the Pat McAfee show to complain about what's going on with him and all that stuff, leaving cryptic messages about him possibly retiring or him possibly moving on and him trying to say, well, I'm okay. If the organization wants to go, if the Green Bay Packers want to go with Jordan Love, I'm okay with it. I don't think that's true. I highly doubt that. He is a very prideful man from what we've seen outside of the football field, and I do not buy that. I think that he is daring the Green Bay Packers to move on from him. He is essentially trying to dare them to go to Jordan Love, and he knows he's going to rub it in their face if this quarterback that they drafted in the first round that they believe is a successor to Aaron Rodgers fails. That is what Aaron Rodgers is waiting for, to see if they do move on. And I believe so. There have been sources saying that they have been fed up with his play. They did not like how he played this season, and they might want to get rid of him. Will they pull the trigger, though, is another question. And I don't know if they will, just because they've appeased Aaron Rodgers for so many years. They've let him hold the organization captive. Even though he keeps saying, no, I do not want to hold the organization captive. I do not want, to make the Green Bay Packers feel that they're trapped. But that's not true because we've seen what's going on. He is trapping that organization, and every time he keeps contemplating retirement or he wants to maybe get traded, leave those cryptic messages and keep everyone guessing. All it is just to get more power. He wants the organization to come back saying, "No, Aaron, please don't leave us. What do you want?" It's kind of like, that's kind of like going back to somebody isn't good for you, but you want to go back to them anyways. And that's kind of what Aaron Rodgers is kind of playing at here. He wants Green Bay to come, on hands and knees begging Aaron not to retire because they're too scared to pull the trigger and just go with Jordan Love. And I think that's going to hurt the organization going forward, especially if Aaron Rodgers continues to play. And another thing that I have with the complaining on the Pat McAfee show, he decided to stay. He took the money from the Green Bay Packers that offered him that long-term contract. He came back and played. And then they tried to get him more weapons to help him out. I don't know what other situation he wants to be. I don't know if he wants the Patrick Mahomes situation. I don't know if he feels like he should be like what Cincinnati's got going on or what it is, Devontae Adams leaving, whatever the case may be. I don't know what other situation he wants. He has an organization coming hands and knees, asking, what do you want us? What do you want us to do? What do you need from us to make your life easier on the field and get you to stay with the Green Bay Packer organization? I don't know what else Aaron Rodgers wants. And that just frustrates me because, I can understand you want to get your money. I can understand like maybe you want a contract. But when you just want to hold an organization like that and just make sure they do not move on from you or you don't give them a chance to, it's just what doesn't sit right with me. And I think that's what, I truly believe that's what Aaron Rodgers is doing. And there's not much else I can really say about that. And that's just kind of my rant about Aaron Rodgers and what he is doing with the organization. But in due time, we will see if he wants to leave, get traded, or retire. we're just gonna have to wait and see what the organization wants to do and what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. Next up, so the next topic, we're going to be talking about the divisional round and all the games that happened. First off, we got to start with the hard one here. The Dallas Cowboys versus the 49ers. The Cowboys would fall to the 49ers 12-19. I'm going to start with the 49ers first because there's a lot I have to say about what happened to the Dallas Cowboys. A lot, and it's going to take a minute. Brock Purdy. He was 19 for 24, 214 yards. I will say, though, this is what I'll say. I would think it's a little bit of a cause of concern that the offense was not able to be as dominant. The Dallas defense held them to only 19 points when they averaged about 36.9 points per game. And they were held to below 20, and they didn't score a touchdown to the end of the game. And what I'm thinking is that that's a little bit of a concern because we saw how dominant that offense could be with Brock Purdy running the show and what they've done to set him up. And what the concern is to me is that people are going to start to figure out how they're running their offense. Obviously, Dan Quinn set up the Dallas Cowboys to run that, to guard against that offense. The only issue really that the Cowboys had was that they weren't getting to Brock Purdy fast enough. They were letting him, kind of relax in the pocket and, hit George Kittle on a wide open in the middle route or anything like that. And but on the other hand, Brock Purdy wasn't doing well. He didn't play his best game that we've seen. He didn't play at that dominating level that we've been seeing for the past, couple months. And I think it's a little bit of a concern because obviously after a while, people are going to figure out how to beat that offense. And the Dallas Cowboys kind of showed that you can beat that offense. That if you have a good enough defense that follows the rules that the defensive coordinator put in place, or what what coverages to stay in to make sure no one gets open, or if you're a defensive lineman that when the 49ers run that weird play action play and the defensive end and the linebacker know to stay home, do not let that running back get open because they're trying to get it to their playmakers, and make sure the pass rushers get there, you can stop that offense. And I think that's what the cause of concern is, because the offense that the 49ers run is kind of fits with Brock Purdy's play style. He can, run outside the pocket. He's very elusive. And what the Cowboys did was they stopped them. And I think that's a little bit of a concern because the Dallas Cowboys defense and Dan Quinn put in a good defensive strategy against that offense. And that's going to be a little bit of concern going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are on fire right now. So I think that's a little bit really on the 49ers, in my opinion. The defense still played amazing. They've been amazing all year, and they will have their hands full going into this upcoming weekend, but we'll get to that. But I'm going to be moving to the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to start with the obvious. Dak Prescott, 23 for 37, 206 yards, 1 TD, 2 interceptions. Who do I blame for the loss? It's plain and obvious. It's Dak Prescott. That's who I blame for the loss. And here's why. The defense played outstanding, like I said earlier. They didn't even let Christian McCaffrey get over 100 yards rushing. Elijah Mitchell did not get over 100 yards rushing. They were able to hold Brock Purdy in the offense. When Dak turned the ball over, they only allowed field goals the whole time. I believe the second one, it wasn't a field goal, but I know the first interception that Dak threw, the defense came up big and only allowed a field goal. There's not much more you can ask out of a defense going up against a really dominant offense who averages 36 points per game over the past, or ever since Brock Purdy took over. They've averaged about 36 points a game, and they held them to only 19 points the whole game and only 1 touchdown that whole night. All the other scores have come off field goals. So there's not much else you can ask from the defense. The defensive pass rushing was getting to Brock Purdy, or at least putting pressure. The coverage was good enough to at least stop the 49ers. So there's not much else you can ask. Tony Pollard broke his fibula late in the first quarter, I believe, and he was out for the rest of the game. Ezekiel Elliott, there's only so much he can do. CeeDee Lamb had a great game on his own. He had over 100 yards and I believe over 10 receptions the whole game. So, and Kevontae Turpin on special teams, I believe he got 104 return yards altogether. And I believe they were able to recover a muff punt from the 49ers, if I am correct on that one. So there's not much else better play you can ask from the rest of the team. Now, last year when this game happened in AT&T Stadium, It was the opposite. The defense didn't step up. Some of the playmakers didn't step up for the game. This year, it was Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott threw 2 interceptions, and they were bad ones. The first one, I don't know if it was miscommunication with him or Gallup or not, but he threw that ball right to the defense. The second interception, Ward, the defensive back for the 49ers, made a great play on CeeDee Lamb that he didn't see, and he got picked off by Fred Warner. Those are the turnovers you cannot have in the playoffs, and everyone's been saying that, including myself, is that the turnovers are the problem. And that killed the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys fans, was the turnovers. Dak Prescott cost the Dallas Cowboys the game. Nobody else did. Because the defense played well, they were able to hold one of the top offenses in the league to only 19 points when they averaged 36. Special teams played fantastic. Your receivers, or your top wide receiver, played fantastic. The running game, I understand, was a little shocked, but they did the best they could. Who else is there to blame? There isn't anybody else. Dak Prescott turned the ball over, and that's what ultimately was the decision maker. His turnovers killed the Dallas Cowboys. And now, the Dallas Cowboys will be sitting on the couch watching the NFC Championship from Dallas instead of going to Philadelphia and playing for a championship. And one of the things he said earlier today, or it was whenever their post-game conference was, I believe it was the other day. He said it's unacceptable. It's 100% on me. And I don't disagree with him because there's nobody else we can put the finger at. There just isn't. My concern for the Dallas Cowboys, as I said before, was not Dak. It was the corners. The concern I have with Dak is just the interceptions. That was the biggest concern I had for Dak Prescott, was the interceptions that he was throwing. And with that, I was more concerned with corners. And not necessarily the interceptions because Dak was finding a way to win. That was an example of Dak Prescott was the problem. It was not the defense. Because as I stated, only 19 points. Dak Prescott cost us the game. And there's no one else we can blame. No one else played, that poorly. It was just him. He put the 49ers in a good position with those 2 turnovers. And that's what killed that offense. Now, the next question I've been asked about, with, being a Cowboys fan and everything, is it time to move on from Dak Prescott? Is it time to finally say, you know what, let's start making some phone calls, see what we can get for Dak, and possibly go to the draft or find another quarterback hitting the free agency? I'm not sure now. Before, I used to say no. I want Dak Prescott. I thought I think that he can run Kellen Moore's offense well enough. But after this past weekend, I'm not sure anymore. I'm just not. Because I'm a big believer in Dak, and I think he puts us in the best position. But that kind of play and the play he's had all season, it didn't help his case. Now I'm stuck wondering, should we actually go see what's available? Because he's 0-3 in the divisional round. He's 2-6 in playoff play. And I believe the only other person with that record was Tony Romo, and we stuck with Romo for a very long time. I don't know if we're going to stick with Dak very long now. I really don't. 7th year in the league and not made an NFC Championship game. He has not won a divisional round because he lost. I know he lost to the Packers, the Rams, and now the 49ers. He lost his rookie year, I believe his 3rd year, and now this year in the divisional round. And it's becoming a pattern. He's not coming up big when we actually need him. And the worst part of it is that he's like the inconsistent play that keeps on happening with him is getting bigger and bigger. Because against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I know they were a little bit of a lesser defense, this time around. He threw 5 touchdowns. And he's shown that he could play at such a high level. He's shown it. He's played at a high level before. It's not like he's been bad his whole career, and there's a reason why we gave him all that money, all that guaranteed money, mind you. He's making top player money, and he's not coming up big, and it's a concern. And now it's putting doubt in Cowboys fans and probably in ownership. One of the crazy things that I saw earlier today was that the Dallas Cowboys Twitter page, if you go to their article, I don't know if it's still, as of this episode, I believe it's still up. I'm not really sure. But if you go check out the Dallas Cowboys Twitter page, they threw little jabs at Dak Prescott. I believe they're saying like his turnovers, with the 49ers and the bad play cost us the game. And some people were thinking, well, it must have been hacked. No, because it goes through a main social media person. It goes through somebody. Someone has to approve it when especially if you work for a big organization like that. And it takes a lot for your own organization to do that. Because even like when teams lose, typically they don't put like pictures of you losing or they don't make those kinds of comments like that. And the Cowboys Twitter just threw those kinds of jabs at Dak Prescott. And that should kind of put you in the mindset of, wow, the organization may not have faith in Dak Prescott anymore. Because I'm sure I'm not the only one having this, this kind of feeling of, kind of giving up on Dak. And I don't want to give up on Dak. I really don't. But he's not making it easy. He just isn't making it easy. Because he will play great and then he'll play really bad. And this season was one of those examples of him not playing up to the level that we know he can play at. And I don't think we're going to get rid of him this season. I think he will be the starting quarterback going into 2023 come fall. But do I think he will be the quarterback the following year? That's up for debate. Because if he does not play good this upcoming season, I would honestly start thinking about making some phone calls and seeing what you can get for Dak. I don't know if Jerry Jones is going to do that now. And the only reason why I say it may be next year and not this year is because I do not see many teams taking that contract. Like, especially like teams like the Ravens who don't want to pay Lamar Jackson. Do you really think a team is going to take Dak Prescott's contract? Unless they're very desperate, which I don't see a lot of teams calling for Dak Prescott right about now. Unless somebody does really want him that bad. But, maybe keep your options open and then see what you can get for Dak Prescott or see if anybody wants Dak Prescott. But I think if he does not play good next season and at least we don't try to get to the NFC Championship, he's out. He's going to be gone. Because there's no excuse for playing 7 to 8 years in the league and he has not at least made an NFC Championship, especially with having a talented roster that he's been surrounded with. Now, I believe earlier today on Speak, or the other day on Speak, the show Joey Taylor hosts with Emmanuel Acho and Shady McCoy, and they were saying, I'm blanking on his name, and the Cowboys insider, he was saying that, well, maybe because they weren't so aggressive when Amari Cooper got traded to go get more help for Dak. And you can make that argument to a degree, to a point, because, having a strong second wide receiver will definitely help your quarterback. But it does not excuse that your quarterback still turned the ball over, threw more interceptions than everybody in the NFL, and he was out for 6 weeks. That doesn't excuse that kind of play. So with that, I'm going to end on this sad note because it just bums me out and it bums out Cowboys Nation. Dak Prescott just flat out needs to play better. That quote he said, like, that's unacceptable. This is 100% on me. You're right. This is 100% on you because you are the one that's in charge. You're the leader in the locker room. Don't lose the locker room. Try not to, because once the locker room starts giving up on Dak, I think that's where we're going to have a bigger problem. But as of right now, I truly believe Dak Prescott will be back in the fall. All I can do is hope that he's going to play better. And hopefully he fixes his mistakes in the offseason, because we Cowboys fans and the Dallas Cowboys can't go through that again. And here's the worst part of it all. The worst part. The team is probably not going to be as good as it was this year. Here's why. Here's some notable people possibly leaving. Dalton Schultz is going to be a free agent. Tony Pollard is going to be a free agent. Terrence Steele, the left tackle who was injured, is going to be a free agent. Jason Peters is going to be a free agent. Leighton Vander Esch on defense will be a free agent. And to only add on top of that, Kellen Moore has been offered head coaching jobs by teams, and so has Dan Quinn. So possibly we're going to lose a lot of players due to free agency, and we might lose our 2 coordinators for head coaching jobs. I don't know about Dan Quinn. I don't think he's going to go anywhere, but I can definitely see possibly Kellen Moore going somewhere else. And I don't know if they're, unless we get Greg Roman somehow, but I highly doubt it. But, it's a possibility Dak's going to lose his offensive coordinator and probably some of his weapons. I believe Noah Brown is going to be gone too. T.Y. Hilton's going to be gone. And that's going to be a concern for Dak because he's losing some of his players. I believe Ezekiel Elliott might come up on his free agency as well. I think he's getting close. I know he did say he'll take a pay cut to help the team, which is great. Thank you for being a team player. But all in due time, and we'll just have to see. I mourn for Cowboys Nation and how rocky of a hill the season was, and just to end it for having to end like that on a close game that was winnable. That's the explanation point that I will end on this, is that game was winnable and Dak Prescott did not execute. And there's not much else you can say about that. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Buffalo Bills 27-10. Now, I'm going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow played fantastic. He outplayed Josh Allen, hands down, and he took it to the Buffalo Bills defense. He was 23 for 36, 242 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He just outplayed Josh Allen, hands down. There's no other way to argue that and no way to explain that. That Buffalo defense could not stop that offense in the snow. And one of the things that I think was kind of like just kind of sums up how the game went for the Buffalo Bills is when Tre'Davious White and I believe Poyer, the safety, they clashed into each other, and Tre'Davious White still got flagged for pass interference and set up the Cincinnati Bengals to be in the red zone. That just summed up how the defense was playing that whole game, is because Joe Mixon was running all over that defense. Joe Mixon's stats: he ran for 105 yards and 1 touchdown. Like the Buffalo Bills defense just didn't show up. That's just all it was. That defense that at least does enough to set up Josh Allen to win those games did not do it this week. He did not. They were missing tackles. They were not able to take down Jamar Chase or cover Jamar Chase. I believe Hayden Hurst, the tight end, was getting wide open when they were trying to cover deep with all the 3 wide receivers. And the Cincinnati Bengals just had a better offensive scheme than the Buffalo Bills did. And that's all I have to say about the Cincinnati Bengals. Congratulations to you guys to making it to the AFC Championship for a second year in a row. Next up, I'm going to talk about the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, 25 for 42, 265 yards, 1 INT, 26 rushing yards, and a touchdown. Josh Allen has had, after getting eliminated, he had 4 total turnovers in the 2 playoff games he's played. 4 turnovers. Last episode, I stated that Josh Allen and his concern with me is the turnovers. Turnovers is going to cost Josh Allen the games, and that's exactly what happened. He threw the pick, it cost him the game. It just did. Now, I'm not going to say this is all Josh Allen's fault. I'm not, because the defense definitely did not help the situation. Josh Allen was not the problem like how Dak was, but he was definitely not helping the situation with not playing. And I believe I heard someone complain about, well, he was playing in the snow. No, I don't buy that. Because he played in the snow against Miami, and they beat Miami. With Tua Tagovailoa playing. I do agree, there was no running game, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest things the Buffalo Bills need to do going into the offseason, is getting a running back. And I'll get to that in a moment, because the offense right now revolves around Josh Allen. It's Josh Allen or bust. It's either his big arm or running like a semi and running over everybody. That's the offense that Sean McDermott is running with the Buffalo Bills right about now. And it's clearly only getting them so far, because they have an all-pro wide receiver in Stephon Diggs that, is getting frustrated, as I said earlier in the episode, with him, yelling at Josh Allen, storming out of the arena before all the coaching getting there, him screaming at Josh Allen on the sideline. We're seeing the frustration that is growing with the organization because they have a top 5 quarterback on their team, along with a top 5 wide receiver as well. And then they have probably a top 10 tight end in Knox and Gabe Davis, who comes up big in the playoffs. He's, big game Gabe. So it's not like they're set, they're like in a position where they're not doing well. They're set up to possibly at least get to a Super Bowl. Everyone had the Buffalo Bills going to the Super Bowl this year. A lot of people had the Buffalo Bills going this year, over the Kansas City Chiefs, who lost, Tyreek Hill. But now who's in the AFC Championship this year? The Chiefs, who lost Tyreek Hill. They made it work somehow. Their offense that Josh Allen runs with the Buffalo Bills, it just centers around him, which is great, because he's your star player. But what is becoming the issue is the no running game. Like I said in the last episode, their running game is very inconsistent. Either Singletary can go off for 100 yards, or Josh Allen can almost get 100 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And that's great and all, but what happens when you put him in the situation where he gets hurt? Now you don't have Josh Allen to help you either throughout the season or throughout the playoffs. And we saw, we've seen an example of that with the Kansas City Chiefs, which we'll get to next, with them and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, that's going to be one of the biggest things I think that the Buffalo Bills is going to have to do. They need to get a running back. Because if they want to at least get past the divisional round next year, because Patrick Mahomes is not going anywhere for a while. Joe Burrow is not going anywhere anytime soon. Tua Tagovailoa, if he comes back with that Miami offense, is not going anywhere. And if Lamar Jackson stays, Lamar Jackson's going to be there. You can maybe put in Justin Herbert. I mean, I don't think Justin Herbert will get farther than the wild card. That's what he's kind of showing, throughout the couple years he's played. But the AFC is only getting harder, and he is going up against top quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, in my opinion, Joe Burrow just passed Josh Allen. Now, if you tell me who are my picks for a quarterback, it's going to be Patrick, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, because Josh Allen is fumbling in big games. He is turning the ball over, and that's not what I want from a quarterback. As I say in the last episode, he was tied for second in the NFL for interceptions behind Dak Prescott and Davis Mills. He was tied with Derek Carr, who I said before, bad season, and Kirk Cousins, who had one of the weirdest seasons this year. And Josh Allen was tied with them. A top 5 quarterback should not be at least in that area of interceptions. And he's just turning the ball over. And that's a result of how they're running their offense. So if they can get at least a good running back, some free agent running backs that are hitting the market this year, Tony Pollard from the Dallas Cowboys, he's a free agent. It hurts me to say that they might go get him, but he would definitely help. Josh Jacobs, the running back for the Las Vegas Raiders, who had a fantastic year this year, he's going to be available. Miles Sanders is going to be available. I believe Dante Freeman is going to be available for the Carolina Panthers. So they have options to get a running back. I believe Singletary, the actual running back for the Buffalo Bills, is going to be a free agent as well. I would think about not signing him and maybe getting another running back or getting one in the draft. Because clearly what is going on is that they cannot, just revolve around Josh Allen anymore. They just can't. And probably for defense, they just miss Von Miller. I think that was the bigger thing with the defense. Is Von Miller and his playoff, appearances he's had, Super Bowl MVP, he had a Super Bowl 50. They definitely missed him because he just helps out on that defensive end, being a leader. So I think that's really what's going to be. And when Von Miller comes back next season, that defense will, definitely take that next step forward. But offensively for the Buffalo Bills, if they want to get farther than the divisional round, they're going to need a running back. And make amends with Stephon Diggs before he may decide he might want to leave. Because the way he was frustrated in that game and, storming off and going to Twitter, it's not looking good. And for the Buffalo Bills. So, but congratulations to the Bengals for moving on. Last game of the weekend, the Chiefs versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I will start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, 2 for 17, 1 touchdown and 1 INT. Now, I didn't expect them to win the game. I don't think anybody really did. They were close, but I did not expect them to. The defense definitely, had a hard time, holding the Chiefs. The only reason why they were able to stop Patrick Mahomes is because of the injury, which we'll get to that in a moment. And then the interception at the, towards the end of the game killed the Jacksonville Jaguars' hopes of coming back in the game. But, Jaguars fans, look at this as a glass half full. Keep in mind, last year they did not finish at top of their division. They didn't even make the playoffs. Urban Meyer had to leave. They did not have a head coach. Doug Peterson came in and definitely turned that organization around. I think with a couple more pieces, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be scary going into the future. Trevor Lawrence is showing that he's going to be their franchise quarterback. There was definitely no doubt in that whenever he got drafted. But definitely a couple more pieces on that offense. Fix the offensive line, protect him. Maybe in the free agency, try to get some defense. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, they look legit. We saw it when they came back and down 27-0 and won the game. So I think they're heading in the right direction. I didn't expect them to go like super far into the playoffs. I knew they were not going to get past the Kansas City Chiefs. But they're in the right direction. They're in the right slope up, going into the offseason, going into next year. So, congratulations to you guys. Moral victories all around. And congrats to Doug Peterson for, turning that organization around and for Trevor Lawrence having a better year. And I'm going to call it. They're going to be dangerous in the next couple of years. If they can, like I said, if they can get more pieces around them, help out Trevor Lawrence, and, maybe a little help on defense, they're probably going to win the AFC South for a very long time because I don't really see the Titans getting any better with Ryan Tannehill. Malik Willis wasn't doing any good. Derrick Henry's the only good thing coming out of Tennessee right about now. The Houston Texans, they're going to take a while to get better, and it's going to be their division to win, in my opinion. I think that it's going to be theirs, to win it and go to the playoffs every year. So, we'll just have to, hold off on that one. But Jacksonville, you're on the right path. I commend you guys for, trying your best and, commend you guys on the step forward you guys are taking. And, hey, give Trevor Lawrence a sponsorship with Waffle House. I will watch that commercial, hands down. All right, but I'm going to move over to the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes, 22 for 30, 145, 2 touchdowns. My big thing, not on the play of the Kansas City Chiefs because they played well. The defense did well enough to stop Trevor Lawrence, to make a comeback and win the game at the end. My big concern with Patrick Mahomes is the high ankle sprain that he received. If any of you saw the hit that he took, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can see my arm as I demonstrate. But if you're listening to this on Spotify, my arm is going to be his leg, and he got tackled, and his knee got bent, and his ankle got kind of squished down, and that was a concern because he was hobbling everywhere. Just to do a simple handoff was a problem for him. He was limping all game. I believe that he said that he's not, it's just a high ankle sprain, nothing to worry about. I don't know, because that did not look good. And here's why I'm concerned is because his mobility. His mobility is what makes him great. To be able to run out of the pocket and do those crazy throws, throw off his back foot. We saw it at Texas Tech, and we're seeing it how it's working, how it's translating in the NFL. And you take away his mobility, he's going to be a sitting duck. He's already kind of a fast guy, but you take away the mobility, it's going to be a little hard. And definitely, we saw it in some passes he made. Whenever you step back as a quarterback, your back foot is kind of like a placement, and you're able to throw it with a little bit more accuracy. Without it, now it's kind of harder to kind of get that ball to go, or at least go in the right direction. Especially if he likes to throw off his back foot, which is the foot that got injured. And they said it's doing fine. He should be good to play going into this Sunday. I believe them, but it's definitely something to watch out for. Going into this game, especially with Cincinnati and how much momentum they got going into this with their defense playing stellar against Josh Allen, holding to only 10 points. And we'll have to see what's going to what's going to happen with Patrick. And they're probably going to warm up Chad Henne. Chad Henne's going to have to probably stay warm because they may have to go to him if anything happens. Chiefs will do 3-step drop-off passes to help him not. Yeah, that's a good point. The only issue I have with that is that they do not have a fast wide receiver anymore like Tyreek Hill to help him kind of get that. Juju Smith's kind of been inconsistent a little bit this year. Marquez Scantley, he's done, well enough. The only person I can see really helping is going to be Travis Kelce, which is all he really needs, to be honest. So, being the best tight end in the league and all. So, I think the Chiefs will be fine. It's just they're going to have to figure something out with this limited mobility that Patrick Mahomes is going to have going into the AFC Championship. Now, we're going to finish off the episode with some game picks. Who do I think is going to go to the Super Bowl? First up, the 49ers and the Eagles. As I said earlier, the cause of concern for the 49ers is going to be the way that the defense is being stopped. Their defense is definitely going to be the biggest key, I think, going into this game. Because the Eagles were flying high, and they look like Jalen Hurts did not look like he skipped a beat. He did not look like he was out. And that defense is kind of clicking on it again. And if you saw the Eagles game, they blew out the Giants, who flopped. They did not let Saquon Barkley take over, and they dominated 38-7. It's going to be tough because it is going to come down to defense, in my opinion, for the 49ers. And my concern is what I said earlier about the Dallas Cowboys defense. They were able to figure out Brock Purdy. They figured out how to stop that offense. And I'm pretty sure Philadelphia is going to go into the film room and look at that. But I'm going to have to give it to the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to be your next NFC champions. Next, the Bengals and the Chiefs. This is going to be another close game. However, I love Patrick Mahomes. He's a Red Raider. I'm a Red Raider. Don't get me wrong. But Joe Burrow is undefeated against Patrick Mahomes. He's probably the only quarterback to say that in the NFL. The Bengals are riding high, coming off a big win against one of the best teams in the AFC. I'm going to have to go with Joe Shiesty. I don't think I could pick against him because the way he's able to efficiently run that offense, Joe Mixon being a beast, and Patrick Mahomes being limited, Sam Hubbard is probably going to be all over Patrick Mahomes. They're going to try to set up quick screens to help, kind of get that pressure off Patrick, try to set up Travis Kelce. But the Bengals are going to come prepared. And I think Joe Burrow knows that. And he has that great confidence that probably everybody wants, in themselves. He's just confident, he's so confident in going into games. He doesn't see himself as an underdog. I think somebody interviewed him after a practice and they asked, do you feel like the underdog? He said, no, I don't feel like an underdog. He's confident in himself, and I like that. And I think the Bengals can go to the Super Bowl again. They may win it, but we're going to have to see after this Sunday, but I do have the Cincinnati Bengals pulling out a win against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I will have them going against the Philadelphia Eagles at the Super Bowl in Arizona. Alrighty, guys, but it's going to be a wrap up on this episode of the CAV Sports Podcast. Remember to follow the podcast on social media at CAV Sports Podcast or CAV Sports on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And this episode will be on YouTube later today, and it will also be on Spotify. And if you guys want to catch up on any other episodes you missed, any previous episodes, make sure you check out the YouTube channel at CVA Sports Podcast and also on Spotify, CAV Sports Podcast. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.